In the system, you can come to Hiscus and change this from student to seeking employment for this consumer, because presently he is no longer a student, but he is seeking employment. You would continue to go on the screen and make sure anything, again, with the star is filled in. You also have phone numbers. You can also look and see what phone numbers you have on file. Do they need to be updated in the system? Are there mobile numbers that need to be updated? And you can update that at this time as well. Once you've gone through that screen, the last screen you want to look at are the addresses. Does the consumer still live, at this address? Has there been any changes, to their address? Have you been notified of any changes at this time? And in this screen, you would just simply update any information needing to be updated. Also, if you need to update any contacts for the individual, you can go to the contact screen. Right now, we just have the contact information for his mother listed here. And again, if you notice any changes with numbers at all, you can just update that information here in the screen for your consumer. Now we're done with that section. We'll go and move on to the next section in our file check. The next section in our file check would be, is the ISP up to date? All requested or required revisions or general updates have been made. Basically, you want to just, take a look at the plan. Click Plan, Manage Plan, and you'll notice that John Scaville's plan is here, is approved. This is when you want to just maybe double check and make sure objectives were entered into the system. You click on View Manage Plan. You can click on Goals, and these are some of his goals. As you can see here, John will achieve his GED. Presently, he's not a student, but that was something that John was working on, and we haven't, done a goal completion date for that. So for this, you would kind of just go through and say, okay, well, it looks like so far his objectives are entered. You can just go ahead and click and view each goal and just see if his objectives were entered by just clicking on the View tab and clicking on the goal and then the View tab. And scrolling down to see if all of his objectives have been entered in for each of these goals. Okay. Okay. So far, it appears that all of his objectives were entered in to his plan. We can click on Return Plan Components. We can take a quick look at service details. Okay, so his plan effective date was the 16th. He has his behavioral specialist services, direct and consult. He has his community specialist services. Everything seems to be up to date for this year. He has his support coordination services. Everything in his services are up to date. No revisions were requested. This consumer, however, would like to have a decrease in program service days, and that's something you can check to see with the family what they would like to do moving forward. You can also look at the fiscal year and see if the provider has been using their units. This provider looks like they have 8,000 units. They've only been using 414 since July. So that would be for 3 months, which is not a lot of units. So we need to definitely just make sure that the consumer is seeing his behavioral specialist services provider. He's not rejecting services for that. To figure out why, his services are pretty low for his behavioral specialist. Again, his consults 1,000, only 172 have been used in 3 months. Should be more than that he's using. His community specialist, you can look at that and see, okay, he's been seeing his community specialist for, since July, and the units, they're fair enough, but it should definitely still be higher within a 3-month period. Let's see here. So you can look at his support coordination, see units seems to be fine with this course coordination. It's looking like it's exactly where it needs to be for John, and that's how it should be with all the providers. That means these units are getting properly used. The reason why we want to make sure that units are being properly used is because there are other adults that are on the waiting list to receive these services, and so we want to make sure that the people that are receiving them are not taking advantage of not using the government grant for these services. So we're done checking. There's no revisions needing to be made at this time. The next thing you're going to want to look for is to see if his PRE is completed. There is a training video on the PRE that can be sent out to all SCs. Basically, you go to this link here. You would copy this because the PRE is just a pre-risk evaluation. You had the training for this when you started your role as support coordinator. You would just copy this, and you would just simply, open up a browser. You would paste this in there. You would then go through each screen and fill it out. Again, there's a training on this video that will be sent out for the PRE. The PRE is filled out annually, so he would have had one filled out in July. His next one would be, if we find any risk with him this year and the Bureau's requesting we fill out a PRE. PREs typically take you about 15 to 20 minutes to fill out, unless it's an extreme case. It could be 30 minutes to fill it out, but typically I would say 15 to 20 minutes. If you're looking at this in service note, writing up the service note and completing this is typically about 3 to 4 units. Just kind of giving a brief update after you do the pre-risk evaluation of, are there any risk? You would put that in your service notes and in your SC document, just for the other providers to be aware of it. The PRE can be completed by you or his behavioral specialist. So it just depends on who the Bureau requests to complete the PRE. The last thing we have here on our file check are incidents. Any incidents would include hospitalizations for psychiatric, hospitalization for any type of medical condition. We would just fill this out just to keep the team updated on the person's medical condition. The way that you would locate the EIM system is by going to HISCUS. You would click on M4Q. You would click on EIM, and another screen will be brought up. In that screen, you would then enter, any incidences that may have occurred: a broken arm, a hospitalization. I believe this individual did have a recent hospitalization this year, and that was listed under crisis. You'll see that this occurred, within the past 51 days. If you wanted to look at the incident just to see what happened, as you can see, John Scavito, okay, he was hospitalized, I believe, back in March. You can click on his case. This will bring up the next screen, and you can just kind of run through and kind of look at where the status is for this. And you basically complete the incident first section and last section of any incidences. You can go from screen to screen and just kind of see what the status is. If the status is open, then you can go over with your SC supervisor what would need to be done to close it. This has been, open back in March of this year again for this individual. And again, it was a crisis incident. When you go through each screen, you would just kind of fill out what happened with the consumer. And in this case, it's because he wasn't taking his medications. Okay, but that's how you would access that system. If you're asked to go in and complete anything, you would go ahead and do that. If you're not asked and you don't see any new cases for anything, then you would be finished, and that would conclude your file check. File checks typically may take you, 4 units or so. It could go over. It just depends on, if you do a file check again and you say, okay, hey, I didn't collect this monthly, let me go ahead and get that. A file check can complete your service units for that whole week, because you're going through doing your file check and then you're seeing what needs to be updated. If you have any questions about file checks or any other information that was covered in this training video, please contact your SCS. Thank you for